Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And, whoo. And just like that, we're back on mountain time. Mountain time, yeah. Take a deep breath in. You're in the mountains, dog. You're there. All right. Alrighty. Pod 14, man. Pod 14. Pod 1-4. This is going to be the biggest podcast I've ever done. And here's why. It'll be the longest. I'm striving for an hour and a half. I have a lot that needs to be said. I have a lot of thinking to do. I have a lot of words that I need to discover that are inside of me. And this is Pod 14, man. That's 7 times 2. 14 is a special number to me. It's a special number to me. I turned 18 in 2014. I became an adult in 2014. You guys ever think about that? Just one day you wake up, it's a day called your birthday, the day you're born, and once you wake up, once you do that 18 times, you wake up on that day and the world says, hey, you're an adult now. You're something different than what you were. You have access to new things. Be careful. We're not really going to tell you right or wrong. We're kind of just going to say, hey, you're not a kid. You're an adult. You have access to more stuff. And that's turning 18. So I turned 18 in 2014. And 14 just is a special number to me. When I played football in high school, I was number 14. I like the number 14. I was 14 at one point. So anyway. But today, man, I'm learning a lot. Every podcast I do, I learn something new. I learned something new about audio. I learned something new about my, I got a new interface and I'm learning more about it. Balance, how to monitor in the space when I'm recording it. And I like where I'm at right here. This sounds really nice and natural and I feel really good and calm. It's a podcast today. You guys probably know what today is. It's January 1st. 2024. The start of 2024. Can I get an amen on that one? Man, a new year. Brand new year. Every year we get one. God just kind of leans down and kind of sets a new set of days on our platter. Says, here you go. Don't eat it all at once. You're going to eat it one bite at a time. And that's, he kind of just gives us these days, And I'm grateful, super, super, super grateful for a new year. I'll tell you that. I mean, because a new year is really a new opportunity to become a new version of you. And we all understand that. I mean, the fact that we came up with New Year's resolutions, quote unquote. Resolution. We try to figure out some resolve. We just had resolve. That's what December is. It's called resolve. And then resolution is a start. I like definitions. I like looking up definitions on words. So resolution, what's it mean? It's a firm decision to do or not do something. A firm decision to do or not do something. Yep. And that's what a resolution's all about. I wonder, some of my resolutions are about like starting new things, but also some of my resolutions are about not doing certain things that I've done in the past. You know? And I think the distinction's kind of important, you know? Sometimes people get overwhelmed by New Year's resolutions because they're like, the thought of starting something new is kind of scary. It means change, it means action, it means pro-action. But I think for some people that are scared of New Year's resolutions or don't like making them, it's sometimes useful to just think about one thing you want to cut out of your life, you know? Maybe your resolution is, hey, I'm not gonna do this because it causes me to feel like this. Maybe it's one thing. Maybe it's tobacco use. Maybe it's binge drinking. Maybe it's relying on some sort of substance to make you feel a certain way. Maybe it's staying up too late. Maybe it's eating McDonald's 5 times a week. Maybe you say, hey, this year I'm only going to eat McDonald's twice a week, you know? So there's different ways to make resolutions. You guys can do whatever you want. I don't care. I do care though. It's kind of, you know. Anyway, so today's pod, man, settling in. Today's guest, oh yeah, we have a guest today. It's you. You're the guest today. You listening to this. This is not a solo episode. This is me communicating to you. Wherever you are. You're out there in the world, aren't you? Look at you. Driving. Look at you. Behind that computer doing work. Pretending to be working. In reality, you're listening to me. Anyways, you guys are my guest. I'm talking to you. It's not a solo episode. It's not just me screaming into the reverberations. That's a tough one, that word. Reverb. It's not just me screaming into reverb in my own head. It's out there. It's through the microphone, through the wire, into my MacBook, into a format, into the internet, into YouTube. Oh, now you're getting it through your other end of it. That's technology. That's technology. And we have it. In 2024, you better believe we have technology. Anyway. So, man, let me get into this. I got a lot to cover here. I can break down. Actually, I don't have to break down because it's already going to be in chapters on YouTube. I break everything into chapters. So if you want to go down to when you click into a podcast and you just want to scroll down to the description, you can hit see more and you'll see the timestamps of where different topics are touched on. So this topic here I'm going to get into right here is called New Year's. And really last night was New Year's. Well, last night was New Year's Eve, they call it. And that's the night before the New Year. And in my past, I've always partied on New Year's. It's a huge party holiday. Hey, pop a bottle. Let me be around some friends. Let me put on my best outfit. Let me meet someone new. Let me kiss someone when the ball drops. That was kind of the past. This year, dude, I was in bed by 7 p.m. last night, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. Man, it felt so good to be just back in my home in Colorado with the literal loves of my life, Asia and Remy and me. In our home, not just a house, not just an apartment, but our home. And just to watch the football, just to have a day, just to have a Sunday of, resettling into where we live, the space we occupy. It felt so good. New Year's Eve, just us three. And man, I have not been sleeping very well the past 2 months, basically. It's been, not 2 months. That's since mid to late November, kind of a month and a couple weeks, month and a week. I have not been sleeping well, okay? So last night around 7 o'clock, it was kind of just getting into the final NFL game, the Vikings, and they played the can't even remember, dude, because I was sleeping. So I fell asleep pretty early on, and I had a lot of riding on the line of fantasy. I was a Packers, duh. I had a lot riding on the fantasy. Fell asleep because I kind of knew, should have started Isaiah Pacheco, but he was questionable at the start of the game, so I decided to bench him because questionable means 50-50 chance he might play, he might not, and to start him and then have him not play would be devastating, so I put him on the bench. I put Pacheco on the bench on the championship of my fantasy. And he starts strong, dude. He starts from the go, and he looked the opposite of hurt. He looked like he looked the opposite of hurt. He came out running hard opening drive. I mean, just the dude runs like he's angry at the ground, like he's literally just a monster on the field. Gosh, I would hate to have to tackle that guy. But the opening drive, I could tell he looks incredible. No injuries on this soul. And then I think the first drive, they went right down the field, the Chiefs did, and they threw a touchdown to Pacheco in the end zone. I mean, he had 10 points on the first drive. I said, dang it. Because I started Chandler, the Vikings running back Chandler, over him. And again, I did that because he was listed as questionable at the start of the day. So anyways, long story short, I did not win my championship. I lost by 5 points in my fantasy football league. Made it all the way to the championship to lose by 5 points. That's tough. Hey, you play the game, though. You play the game the best you can, man. And it was 12 people in that league, and I made it, man, dang near to the top, dude. But shout out to the my coworker who beat me, Colton. Shout out you, man. Much respect. He got it done. Jordan Love got it done in the late game, and well deserved, brother. Well deserved. So anyways, I fell asleep because I kind of could feel this happening, in the late game, and I fell asleep at about 7:30, just on the couch, just full on sleeping. I mean, I had not a care in the world. I mean, it was just contentment, man. It's like, man, New Year. And it was like, I don't need to go out to some party. I don't need to go be around some celebration, dude. It was so content. And I knew my fiance, Asia, I'm just going to refer to her as Asia at this point. I knew that Asia worked today. And she's got to get up at 5 a.m. So I just knew hey, maybe we're turning it early tonight, hon. And man, it just felt good to get some rest, dude. God, to get some sleep. I mean, you wouldn't imagine the place that I've been sleeping, dude. So anyways, got a full night's rest. I woke up today just feeling like I had some energy in my bones, just to get a night's rest and just to wake up clear-minded, not hungover, just to wake up in my own home, just to wake up with my cat and just feel the sun in the morning. And it was just a great morning, dude. Great morning. It's about noon right now on New Year's Day. So I've had a good morning, man. I got up at about 7:30. So anyways, got the show notes today because this is pod 14. You guys are my guests. How am I doing so far? Great, thank you. So another thing I have on the show notes was I want to briefly, kind of get into what I make of this podcast. What is it that I make of the podcast? What am I doing? What's my plan? What do I make of it up to this point? Kinda. And I've talked about it kind of spread out sparingly, but from every episode I've recorded up until now. I really wonder if there's anyone out there that has been listening to from pod 1 all the way up to pod 14. I wonder if there's anyone that's following them, because I'm very intentional with everything I say on the podcast. Everything is relevant to something. And so as I do episode one was, very, episode one, when I go back and listen to it, I feel like it was like discovering podcast. It was literally falling into a podcast of this is happening. And by the end of it, I let you know it's happening. And then pod 2 was like, I like that I named them all. It's really easy to kind of conceptualize each pod in my mind at this point. Obviously, I'm more familiar with them because I'm the one recording them and then listening back to them and then curating them and then promoting them or whatever. And so I would describe pod 1 through 6 is a set of pods. 1 through 6 is a set of single podcast, me discovering what the podcast is, me recognizing is number 7, but 1 through 6 is really me encouraging myself, like literally me being like, yes, you can do this. It was getting into the rhythm of figuring out buzzwords, topics to talk about. You would have to have topics if you want to do a podcast. It was me discovering that the podcasts pull me into the now, that they make me feel really present, and that this presence, being present, is like really important to me at this stage of my life. 5 was about, pod 5 was show don't tell, and that was about creating imagery with speech. It was about the art of podcasting, the freaking art behind it. And I think that was the podcast where I realized this is performance art. This is comedy. This is communication. This is dialogue. This is a self-narration. This is friendship. This is camaraderie. This is ideas. This is like all this really important things. And performance art kind of encapsulates. If you go on, I would encourage anyone to go on Wikipedia, go on your Safari, type in performance art and read the Wikipedia description about it. I didn't know this is what I was doing when I started it, but around pod 5, pod 6, I realized that I'm doing performance art, and it's a very specific form of art. It's very different. It has to do with an audience. It has to do with breaking conventions. It has to do with this concept of breaking the fourth wall. It has to do with how I feel about the podcast, how I'm interacting and augmenting the podcast into my life. So performance art, you can look that one up. But so 1 through 6 was really that. 7 through 9 is a set. So pod 7 through 9 is a set. It's a set of 3 podcasts. So when I say it's a set, it means that they go together. It's like a book. They're like chapters in a book. 1 through 6 is a set of podcasts on Give Me the Keys. Set that aside. 7 through 9 is a new book in the podcast. And 7 through 9, well, 1, I turned the audio up. Thank God. I mean, I had the audio down way too low on the first 6. Sorry. I had to recognize when I was driving home and I had to turn my speaker all the way up to max, and I was like, I could barely hear it with all the luggage in my car. I was like, oh, podcasts are too quiet. Thank God on 7. Praise God on 7 that I turned up the volume. Anyways, pod 7's just, I'm listening to Yay in the beginning. It's me realizing that I can. Recognizing that I can in pod 7. It's the confidence. It's the settling in of no more questioning, can I do a podcast? This is a podcast and here's what I have to say. That's 7 through 9. 8's obviously the recap. Me and my dad, I went on a week-long vacation out west, saw a lot. There was a lot to talk about on there. That's LA, that's Death Valley, that's Las Vegas, that's the Sphere. That's my dad. That's Road Trip. I like that one. It's a story. It all happened. Pod 9's my favorite pod, for sure. Pod 9 is, when I go back and listen to pod 9, I'm like, wow, we really took it to a whole new level on Pod 9, man. I mean, talk about performance art. Look up performance art, understand it, and then go listen to Pod 9 and tell me that's not performance art, because that's what it is. Pod 9's funny. It's all true. It's making light of the worst day of my life. And that's the magic of this podcast, is out of all the irritation and frustration and ironies of the day and the pity, the self-pity that I felt. It's like, out of all that emotion, I can literally flip it on its head. Whoop! Make a podcast out of it. Give it to the world and make it something positive. So 7 through 9's a set. Pod 9's my favorite. And then 10, 11, 12, and 13, that's a set. It's a book. That's called Guest Podcast. That's called Friendship. Listen to them. Zay, Aaron, Corey, Aaron, coinage. Zay, Aaron, Corey, coin. Book. That's a set. And I loved having guests. I loved being the podcast in front of other people and showing my friends, hey, this is how it works. Meeting a new friend who also podcasts. Hey, how do you do it? Hey, here's how I do it. Sharing information. Becoming closer. Learning about new topics. Reminiscing with Corey on the best, funnest memories of my childhood. Being kids. Remembering that I'm alive. Remembering that I do have a past. And it's actually a pretty positive past. You know? Linking up with Coin and talking about things that matter. Death. Death is probably the thing that matters almost the most. I mean, when you encounter death in your life, when someone you love dies, when something you love dies, you're gonna recognize that. You're gonna see it, you're gonna feel it, and it's gonna be the realest, hardest thing that you encounter. So death is a pretty good topic to cover, okay? And I got to share with Aaron, just to create the ultimate context of how I got here, why this is the way, the I am. To get to that point on Pod 13, right before the end of the year, to have that resolve. Now I'm fast forward into the future, Pod 14. What are my resolutions? Remarkable. Truly remarkable. So that kind of brings us up to speed, man. So what do we got today? What's the podcast really like? Huh? I'm going to crank this up because I'm going to stand a little bit now. And I'm going to walk over and get some, today on the podcast we have some San Pellegrino. And that's a spicy water for anyone that's unfamiliar. And then we have a good old-fashioned Bud Light. Not a Busch Latte, but a Bud Light. And that's the sound of Buzz Lightyear's coming into the realm of the pod. I remember there was a phase where I was around some friends or people in my life where they hated on Bud Light. And I kind of adopted some of that hate for it. And I kind of stopped drinking it for probably about 3 or 4 years. I switched to Miller, which Miller's great, Bud's great, but then I came back to the Bud Light and I'm like, I mean, it's a good beer. It is a good beer. So anyways, cheers. Let's make a cheers here. Coming back over close to the mic. Turn it down again. let's make a cheers here, everybody. Whatever you're drinking, let's say you got some water by you. Hey, raise up a Stanley or a Hydro Flask or a Yeti or a plastic bottle. I don't care. Raise it up. Cheers, brother. 2024. Dink. Yep. And that's breaking the fourth wall right there. If anyone's unfamiliar with that phrase, breaking the fourth wall, it's like, there's nothing blocking me from you. We are here together. You're my guest today, dude. Like, you. Thank you for being here. Thank you wherever you're visiting from. Thank you. So, maybe need a little bit more juice back on here. Yep, I can fix it in post, but let's get it right the first time. So that was 26 minutes. That's phase 1. Now we're getting into phase 2. I'm trying to break this up into 3 phases of 30 minutes. If anyone's curious how I'm going to hit how I'm going to hit an hour and 30 minutes. Phase 2, I'm going to talk about Christmas. I'm going to talk about family. I'm going to talk about friends. I'm going to talk about gifts and presents. I watched Step Brothers over December. And I realized how funny of a movie that is. It's kind of a Christmas movie because they get to Christmas in Step Brothers. And I remember just laughing so hard at so many parts of that movie, just remembering that I could laugh. I mean, when they're at the dinner table, man, the first time they're all 4 there at the dinner table, and freaking Dale sings, "If you want to get down on it, down, why don't you jump right in? It's over here, why don't you, this big." Can't even sing it because I gotta censor it because it's vulgar. But it's funny. Man, it's funny. And then the other scene where they're in the bedroom, Dale and Brennan are in the bedroom, and Dale decides that Brennan he needs to hear how Brennan sounds singing. And then Brennan sings, and Dale's just slowly becoming more and more in awe as he's singing. And then at the end, he's like, "Dude, I can't even look at you." And Brennan's all like, "I've been sick for 2 weeks. This is not an acoustic environment." Funny, dude. Thank you to the people that created and the actors in the movie Step Brothers. Joy comes out of that. So, Christmas. Christmas. It's about Jesus and Christ for sure, and being merry. The Americanized version of that, the commercialized version of that is being merry and buying people presents and buying them gifts and consumerism. But the sentiments of Christmas to me, I mean, man, it's love. At the end of the day, it's just LOVE, love. Share it, feel it, spread it around, get ready for a new year of love. That's it. And so Christmas means a lot to me because I've moved away from my hometown. When I turned 18 on 2014, and I became an adult, I moved away from my family and hometown. And all my extended family is also in the Cincinnati tri-state area. So, Christmas means coming home and being with my family and being around them. Even despite it being hard. Excuse me. Despite it being really hard to be around my family sometimes, it means a lot to me. And I always try and grow closer to my family when I come home. I'm more intentional. Kind of since after graduating college, I became more intentional about it. I think in college, when I would come home, it'd be about partying and seeing old friends and having fun and, all that, jazz. But come around to graduating college 2019, I mean, I started the past 4 years or so, I started, making the most of being home, focusing on my family. How can I become closer to my mom and dad? How can I love my sister more? How can I be more supportive to my sister? How can I make good memories and teach my niece and my little brother new things? How can I be? It's kind of the ultimate question. But so Christmas is always about that, first and foremost. And this trip was also a big aspect of it was friendship. And I think, and I love that I've been able to illuminate this by being around my friends and capturing that on the podcast. And I hope that people can realize that every friend that I that I interact with on pod 10 through 13, that you can feel the different flavors and layers of all of those friendships, that they're all different and unique. And that I'm right there present with every friend. That matters to me. I want to feel like I could sit in a room with a complete stranger and still achieve friendship. I want to paint a picture of what friendship looks like, and I want to do that in a digital, creative way. Through a podcast, through a YouTube video, through technology, to utilize the resources I am blessed to be exposed and have access to. So that's friendship. And I feel like every podcast that I did with a guest, as I've already outlined, and I felt like every episode after it, man, we both of us were on a natural high of like, man, that was fun, that was cool. Like, the time flew by, we were engaged, it was fun. We were, every episode feels like that. And I love that I can be, that I can kind of, take the first step and then help my friends achieve that feeling too. And just to create more possibility for the future, that's all it is, man. So that was special. Christmas time. Thank you, God. Praise God for giving me this life and this breath and this body and this mind and this heart. Thank you. Praise God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for your sacrifice, for creating the landscape of morality and showing me the way and being the I am. Thank you. So, and then kind of once you realize Christmas is all about that, the gifts and the present, I'm gonna make a distinction. Gifts and presents. I talk a lot about bodily conscious presence. I'm gonna just use the word gifts for Christmas gifts, presents. Okay, so gifts, items that people hand over to you in a box that they went out and bought, and then they went and bought some wrapping paper, and then in isolation away from you, they put that item into a box, and then they wrap it up like with fancy paper and make it look like really hard to open, and then they hand it to you on Christmas, and then it's you open it up not knowing what it is, and it's a surprise. That's what we do on Christmas, and that's fun. I like giving people gifts way more now than and I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna be like I'm so mature and I like giving gifts more than I like receiving them. I equally like receiving gifts. It's kind of nice when someone gets you something that you want. Kind of nice. Not the worst thing ever. It's kind of fun. So I like the duality of both, though. I focused really hard on giving intentional gifts, on actually thinking, what does this person like? What are they interested in? What do they need? What would they find value in? I like that exercise. And then I like being in a position in my life where I have the financial resources to go out and buy it, to get access to the things, to be creative enough to make a good gift out of $0. How about that? So anyways, I feel like this year, my family really went all out to get me like every last thing I could possibly imagine. I already have everything I could want and more. Like probably the past year or so, I've bought everything that I truly desire. As crazy as that is, that's just the luxury of having financial access to things. But my family went above and beyond, and they got me so many cool things that I like. They really, really went all out for me. And just to kind of, briefly, I'm not going to get into a Christmas, here's what I got for Christmas, but here's what I got for Christmas briefly and swiftly. One, my dad got me a really nice pocket knife. I live in Colorado where I'm hiking in the wilderness by myself. There's some things out there. Mountain lion, a pack of ravaging wolves, a motherly moose. Come around the corner on a moose having protecting her young, and I need something to defend myself. A crazy guy, a serial killer. You guys ever listen to true crime podcast? There could be a psycho out there. And it's nice to have a sharp blade that locks out. So if I do have to jab something, jab that, play with death a little bit, I got something to give me a fighting chance, okay? So that's a pocket knife. I told my dad, I want something nice, Dad. I'm planning on taking care of this knife for the rest of my life. Get me something quality, and I'll take care of it for the rest of my life, and it'll always be from you. And my dad got me that. Thank you. Vacuum. My mom got Asia and I a vacuum. We had a really crappy vacuum because we moved out here and we had to buy everything off the cuff. Vacuums are expensive. We got like the cheapest one because we were buying a lot of other things. Mom got me a vacuum. Thanks, Mom. We're allowed to have a clean house now. My sister got me Commando body mist, and it smells great. Thank you, Jen. I got my mom got me and Asia this little mountain structure. It's like something you would place in your house, like on a shelf. Like it's visually pleasing. It's kind of a decoration, I guess, is the category it'd fall under. But it's this little mountain structure made of rocks, and this artist molded them together. And there's a little sun at the top, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things in my house now. It just looks so cool. It looks like the mountains. And I really appreciate that. It's a piece of art. It's beauty. It's wonder. It's very special to me. What else? My mom got me some Steven Pinker books. He's probably the most recent public intellectual that I've started following or gotten into. Excuse me. Steven Pinker. He's an amazing thinker. He's a linguist. He studied language, how we communicate. He's very into, he does a lot of public talks. He does, writes a lot about writing, about how to be a good writer, he understands imagery in words. He's a photographer. He's into photography in his leisure. He's an academic. He's incredibly smart. I mean, gosh, he's way smarter than where I'm at now. So that's why I read his books. The three that I'm excited to read are The Sense of Style. She got me that, not knowing that I had already read it, but thank you anyways. I have a second copy. The other one is Rationality. And the third one is Enlightenment Now. I'm excited for Enlightenment Now because that's all about why things are good in our society in 2024, in present day, 21st century. We have this doom and gloom mentality. The world's falling apart. It's not. We're doing pretty daggone good if you look at the data. But because we've become conduits of our own reality with the internet, with social media, so many people are using their phones as a negative reflection on the outside world, and they're like, the world is terrible, everyone's getting dumber. Some people are getting dumber, that's for sure. But not everyone. Not everyone. Oh yeah, I got a mini shank hatchet. Probably could take out I wrote this down. I wrote down this list, but I could take out the word shank. Just put mini hatchet, but it's this little itty bitty hatchet. It's well designed. It's got a sheath and everything. It's like literally an inch long. I have to maybe put up a picture of it because it's so funny. But it's on my keychain, and man, if I have to gouge someone's eyes out, I hope I don't have to do that. But if I have to defend myself or cut a little slice of cheese or something, I got something on my keychain for that. That's a legit blade, which is kind of funny. And then the Shock T mat, I put it on my Instagram. It's acupuncture. You lay down on it. It's a way to get into the now. It's meditation. It's discipline, going through pain. Once you sustain yourself through pain intentionally, you come into this break of meditative present state. You lay on it for about 3 minutes and you're like, why am I laying on a bed of nails? This hurts. And then you start to feel really warm and relaxed and really present. And you're one with the pain, and you realize I'm a resilient person that can handle hardship. Very cool gift. Thank you, Asia. The Shock T mat. Made in India by a really cool company. They really take care of their people. They care about, the ideas of peace and resilience and meditation and just being, limber and flexible and challenging yourself. They get all that. So thank you, Shock T. And then my favorite thing, I couldn't believe I got it. I mean, gosh, when my mom pulled out the bag and I saw the letters, the 3 letters, the JJJ, I mean, I was like, dang, dude. I really couldn't believe. I mean, first off, this is a hoodie. And it's created by this design studio out of Montreal. And I've been following them on Instagram for a good probably 7 years, probably 7. And I've wanted one article of clothing from this design hub, these creative minds. But all their stuff is so expensive. A freaking beanie's $70. It's high quality. It's great craftsmanship on product. But a hoodie in a color I like was $270 with shipping. That's almost $300 if you round up. It's $2,700. No, not $2,700. 2710s. I mean, if you have a $10 bill, imagine giving someone 2710s. Just 1, 2, 3, 10, 10, 10, 10, all the way up to 27, and then they give you a hoodie. That's doesn't feel like a great bargain for sure. But anyways, I told my mom, I was like, I want this hoodie. I understand it's outrageously priced, Mom. I'm fully aware that it's overpriced. But if I did come in contact with this hoodie, I would take care of it and wear it for the rest of my life. And I know that the quality would be there to where it could last a lifetime. Barring, no thievery or any fires but Mom, if you get me this hoodie, I will love it forever, and I'll love you even more forever. And I just kind of, it was like, I always have this mentality when my family asks me, what do you want for Christmas? I always kind of preface it with, I don't need anything. I don't. I'm going to love you either way. If you got me nothing this year, I would love you beyond any, just presents don't matter. But I did tell my mom, hey, if this would mean a lot to me, and this would change kind of my wardrobe for sure. If you got me this, and it would mean a lot to me. And if you get it, cool. If not, I understand. It's out, it's $300 hoodie. I get it, Mom. But she got it for me, and man, I just, it was the coolest thing I got all year. Product wise, tangible, consumerism wise. But man, it was cool. It's freaking cool. Gosh, it's cool. My favorite hoodie. The color's perfect. It has this really nice, the weight. It's like wearing a weighted blanket. Just the pure thread count. The reversed woven process they use, the way it's just designed at every angle, the way it hangs off your body. I got an XL. I'm wearing XLs because I sweat and I've been lifting weights. I'm a sweater. If it's tight around my armpits, I got a big chest. I freaking bench press 300 pounds. It's my strong spot. I got a wide, thick chest. Okay? I need an XL. And just the hoodie feels so safe. Gosh, when I put it on, I feel completely safe. And I feel cool in it. That's kind of what we do with clothes. I mean, gosh, I feel cool in it. I'll say it. I put it on and I feel cool. So thank you, Mom. Thank you. What else? Man, so this isn't going to need to be I'm going to push through. This doesn't need to be an hour and a half. I'm going to make it an hour because that's already the first 2 segments. And in this last part here, I mean, I feel like I'm saying exactly what needs to be said. I mean, I'm so tapped into the now, man. I mean, thank you for being my guest. I mean, this is where I wish I could, ask you a question, get some feedback on something, But, you're my guest, but you can't, it's not set up to where you can ask me anything. Yet. Keyword yet. But, okay. Bud Light and the Sisty. I mean, drinking a Bud Light at 12:30 on January 1st of 2024 at the start of a new year. I mean, something about 2024 feels kind of the color that comes to mind is blue. So a Bud Light's kind of appropriate. 2023 was obviously just a green, just a deep forest green. That was obviously 2023. At least I kind of conceptualize years with colors sometimes. Like 2019 was black, for sure, hands down. 2019, black. 2020 was white, for sure white. 2021 was kind of gray. Gosh, 2021 was a tough one. 2022 was yellow, and then 2023 was green, and then 2024 is blue. So I'm drinking a Bud Light on 2024. Feels right. All right, let me take it home. The other things that I want to talk about on this pod, on pod 14, is 2024 goals. I got some ridiculous goals this year. Some absolutely astronomical goals. Some enormous things I want to pursue. Just to kind of let you in. I don't want to get too into the weeds, as they say, on what my goals are. But I've already written them down. They're very specific, and I do want to communicate them into the podcast because how else am I going to manifest these things unless I actually write them down and then say to an audience, I will do this. So anyways, it's a very clear and concise list. 2024 goals. It's all my goals are in the form of numerical amounts. So I will make 6 figures this year. I wrote down $100,000. It's not about money, but this is going to be my greatest goal. They're important. They're listed in a state of importance. Work's important. The fact I have access to be able to create the income I can is insane. 100K, I can do it. Watch me. 10,000 minutes working out. If you do the math on 10,000 minutes, if you divide it by 60 for hours, it's about 166 hours of working out. Across the year, it's doable. Between lifting weights, it's kind of going to be mainly weightlifting. And this year, I want to start up a yoga practice. So it'll be a mixture of those two things. In 2024, I will run 100 miles. 100 miles running this 100 miles west. Feel my fit, feel my neck. Run it up, I'm finna jet. If she down, she can stretch. Run it up 100 reps. 100 miles running, it's 100 miles west. 100 miles, I'll run 100 miles this year. I want to do 100 pods. Why not? Why not do 100 pods and make them as high quality as I possibly can, as entertaining as I possibly can, as informative as I possibly can. Why not? 100 pods. 10 stories on Medium. Just 10. I want to write 10 stories, and I want to actually invest and do them right. Give them the time and love that a piece of writing needs. It's actual thinking. Writing is actual thinking. Podcasting's not actual. I don't consider it. Now we're getting caught up on semantics on words on actual, but writing is the deepest form of thinking for sure. So I want to write 10 stories. I'm already starting a couple. I want to put out 10 songs. 10 songs in 2024. Whether they're brand new creations, whether they're remixes, whether they're acapellas, whether they're just instrumentals I've made, I want to drop 10 songs. Drop them. Put them on Spotify, Apple Music, all the things. Put them out there. Why not? 10 songs in 2024. And then finally, I want to read 10 books in 2024. I read 11 last year. In 2023, I want to read 10. Because I have actually some pretty ambitious goals this year, and I don't, I want to give myself a couple months where maybe I can't read for whatever reason. Maybe I just forget how to read a couple months. So 10 books. And that's my goals for 2024. And I want to speak them into this format, into the podcast, because it's called accountability. Just the idea, even if no one hears this, gosh, even if for whatever reason no one ever heard it, it's more useful to me because I'll know that I said it, and I'll imagine that some people I love and know heard it, and then it'll be more motivating for me to hit the goals. That's called accountability. And 2024, the future of the pod. I got to do 100 episodes this year. That might be biting off more than I can chew, but that's probably biting off way more than I can chew, actually, the more I think about that number. Because, let me think. How fast am I making podcasts? This is 14. I've been doing it for 6 weeks. So I'm doing 2.3 a week or something. So in a year of 52 weeks, it'd be close. I'd have to keep up the way I'm doing them now at the frequency, which it might be hard. Might not. I like doing podcasts. I don't see a reason not to. But I know at some point I'm going to I'll probably be around 30 where I just realize, oh gosh, I've talked about a lot of what I know already, So anyways, whatever. I'm going to be doing pods. Maybe it's not 100, but I'm going to keep doing pods in 2024. I'm going to create a form, a Google Sheet where I want to basically do guest applications. I'll say it again. I will make a form for guest applications. If you want to be on the podcast, if you think that you have the keys and you got something to say, I'll create a form where you can submit your name. You can tell me your proposed location of doing it, because I will not do a Zoom podcast. I just won't. I will not talk to someone over technology. We would have to be in the same physical space. Whether we meet at a neutral location, you fly out to Colorado, propose me an idea on where you think the podcast could happen, what part of the country. You'll tell me some topics or things that you find interest in that you would possibly want to talk about with me on the podcast. And then I'll maybe ask a couple questions about what you make of my podcast, and then you can submit that to me. And then anyone in the world, I don't care if I know you, I don't care if I don't know you, I don't care if you're some kid in Idaho that found my podcast randomly. If you want to be on a podcast, if you think that it would be something beneficial, I'm going to give you a way to tell me that, and then we can see about making it happen. That's an idea. And then questions. The final thing to put is I'm going to make Instagram close friends a way for people to ask me their questions. I'm almost past the point of even caring about y'all's questions, because I realize it's a little frustrating. Listen to Pod 9, my favorite pod. Go back and listen to Pod 9. I think this sentiment will make more sense, but if my close friends on Instagram or the people on my Instagram want to come around and start engaging with the podcast and giving me their feedback and asking me questions, I will read some questions on the podcast. But I'm not going to beg people for questions. If no one's interested naturally enough to ask me a question, I don't want it. So anyways, that's kind of what I see for the future in 2024. And January is going to be a pretty, I'm going to shift a couple gears in January. I always do. This month is going to be about the last 2 months, really the last 2.5, from middle of October to November to December up until now. The last 2 months, 2.5 months have been about experiences, traveling, enjoying friendships, making memories. January's, kind of all about self-discipline, self-improvement, hitting the ground running on my dreams and ambitions. And I always kind of get a little reclusive in January. Not from people I love, but a little bit just, I just want to kind of, go for my goals. And I think this year might be different because of the podcast, because I'm taking marketing and Instagram and social media and audience building, because I'm taking that pretty seriously. Maybe I don't ghost social media. Maybe I don't this year, but January is really about reaching up to the sky and trying to grab onto life as much as I can. So anyways, Pod 14, January 1st, 2024. Let's go. New Year's under the way. Pod 14, probably my favorite pod, just because it was so rich and potent, full of data and information in my mind that I've been sitting on, because the past 4 podcasts have been guests with other people where I'm having to actually bite my tongue and let other people speak and listen and dialogue and communicate. This is more stream of consciousness, stream of being. And this is really getting back to the roots. So anyways, as a notification pops up on my watch, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys so much. Happy New Year. Make the most of it. Follow your dreams and follow Give Me the Keys, baby. Let's go. Give me all the keys, I'm about to unlock. Give me all the keys, I'm about to unlock. Give me all the keys, I'm about to unlock. Give me all the keys, I'm about to unlock.